Senator Santorum, nothing about your lawn, but Governor Pawlenty says America can quickly grow 5% a year for 10 years with the right mix of policies. Is he right?
America has unbounded potential, and I think putting a limit on that potential, we've grown at faster rates than that. For me, it's been a focus on one thing as I've traveled to now 68 counties in the state of Iowa, 50 in the last 14 days, working and meeting with the people of Iowa, and I've been talking to them about what we're going to do to grow the manufacturing sector of this economy. When I grew up in Butler, Pennsylvania, a little steel town, 21% of the people of this country worked in manufacturing. It's now 9%. If you want to know where the middle of America went, it went to China, it went to Malaysia, it went to Indonesia. We need to bring it back. I put together a 4-point plan to do it, including energy, producing more energy, because of course manufacturers use more energy than just about everybody else in the business world. But the big thing I've proposed is to take the corporate rate, which makes us uncompetitive, particularly in exporting goods, take the corporate rate and cut it to 0 for manufacturers. You want to create opportunity for businesses and manufacturing to grow, cut that tax to 0, our jobs will come back.
The deficit-cutting supercommittee is now getting to work. Democrats will demand that savings come from a combination of spending cuts and tax increases, maybe $3 in cuts for every $1 in higher taxes. Is there any ratio of cuts to taxes that you would accept? 3-to-1, 4-to-1, or even 10-to-1?
No, the answer is no, because that's not the problem. The problem is that we have spending that has exploded. Government has averaged 18% of GDP as the percentage of the overall economy that government eats up, and we're now at almost 25%. Revenues are down about 2 or 3%. So if you look at where the problem is in spending, not taxes. And we'll get those taxes up if we grow the economy. I put forth a plan to grow the economy, and I've provided leadership in the past to get bipartisan things done. You know, I sympathize with Michelle Bachmann, who stands up and says, I'm going to stand firm on these things. You need to stand firm on these things, but you can't stand and say, you give me everything I want or I'll vote no. You have to find the principles, like I did on welfare reform. I said 3 things to cut a federal entitlement, to end it. The 3 things we wanted to accomplish: end a federal entitlement, which we did. We wanted to require work, which we did. And we wanted to put a time limit on welfare. We did those 3 things. We compromised on everything else. I didn't get everything I wanted, but I got the core of what I wanted, and we transformed welfare. You need leaders. You need people who are good at leadership, not showmanship.
But just confirming, Senator, you would not negotiate on raising taxes?
Absolutely not, because it's not the problem, and the Democrats know it's not the problem. This is where leadership comes in. You go out to the American public and you lay out the facts. I've been traveling around Iowa, and I lay out the facts to people, and they nod their heads and they say, yeah, this makes sense. We need to get the economy growing. That doesn't mean taking more money out of it. That means creating energy jobs, creating manufacturing jobs, and my plan will do that.
Well,
Senator Santorum, I see you running to jump in. Your thoughts about Romney Care?
First, I was the first author of medical savings accounts back in 1992 with John Kasich in the House. But this is a very important argument here. This is the 10th Amendment run amok. Michelle Bachmann says that she would go in and fight health care being imposed by states, mandatory health, but she wouldn't go in and fight marriage being imposed by the states. That would be okay. We have Ron Paul saying, oh, what the states want to do, whatever the states want to do under the 10th Amendment's fine. So if the states want to pass polygamy, that's fine. If the states want to impose sterilization, that's fine. No, our country is based on moral laws, ladies and gentlemen. There are things the states can't do. Abraham Lincoln said, the states do not have the right to do wrong. I respect the 10th Amendment, but we are a nation that has values. We are a nation that was built on a moral enterprise, and states don't have the right to tramp over those because of the 10th Amendment.
Mr. Kaine, Senator Santorum, I got a question for you.
Well, as the author of the Iran Freedom Support Act, which he is criticizing, because I authored it when I was in the United States Senate when it actually imposed sanctions on Iran because of their nuclear program. Iran is not Iceland, Ron. Iran is a country that has been at war with us since 1979. Iran is a country that has killed more American men and women in uniform in Iraq and Afghanistan than the Iraqis and the Afghanistan has had. The Iranians are the existential threat to the state of Israel. You ask the Israelis what keeps them up at night. It's the Iranians funding of Hamas and Hezbollah and the support of Syria.
30 seconds.
And the reason, hold on, let me finish.
No, there are rules here, sir.
Yeah, I know there are rules, and you guys have been giving these guys a lot of time and not a whole lot of time to me, so let me answer the question.
You have a question coming.
Okay.
Senator Santorum, I want to pick up on this debate. You say Attorney General Holder must be under the influence, and in fact you've suggested perhaps smoking mushrooms, to want to try terrorists in civilian court. Are you also suggesting that Congressman Paul is under the influence?
Well, anyone that suggests that Iran is not a threat to this country or is not a threat to stability in the Middle East is obviously not seeing the world very clearly. He sees it exactly the way that Barack Obama sees it, that we have to go around and apologize for the fact that we've gone out and exerted our influence to create freedom around the world. I don't apologize for that. I don't apologize for the Iranian people being free for a long time, and now they're under a malocracy that tramples the rights of women, tramples the rights of gays, tramples the rights of people all throughout their society, and is the greatest supporter of terrorism in the Middle East and around the world, and is setting up training camps and is working with Venezuela and other countries in south of our border to threaten us. Iran is a country that must be confronted. I was in front of this curve. I authored the Iran Freedom Support Act back in 2004. It was blocked by Joe Biden, nonetheless, and Barack Obama once. We got it passed. And I can tell you, if Rick Santorum and when Rick Santorum is president, Iran will not get a nuclear weapon because the world as we know it will be no more.
Senator Santorum, you're looking incredulous. Response?
Well, it sounds to me like Representative Paul would actually say polygamous marriages are okay. If the state has the right to do it, they have the right to do it. And it is not beyond reality, Ron. It is exactly what's being offered in other states right now, and it's being litigated in our courts right now, which is exactly how gay marriage came about, as we see here in the state of Iowa, where 7 justices forced gay marriage on the people of Iowa. I was the only one on this panel who came to Iowa last year and made sure that those 3 justices were defeated. I campaigned and worked to make sure those justices were defeated, because we can't have...
You can finish, Senator.
Okay, we can't have 50 marriage laws. This was the approach that the left took on abortion, which is to pick a few states, pick a few courts, and then go to the Supreme Court and say equal protection. You can't have different state laws, and then you'll have 9 people up at the Supreme Court deciding what marriage is in this country. You have to fight in each state, and that's where I disagree with Rick Perry. I disagree with Michelle Bachmann. I will come to the states and fight to make sure this strategy of picking off a state here and there does not be successful in transforming marriage.
And our next question is for Senator Santorum. In June you said, quote, "I believe that any doctor who performs an abortion should be criminally charged for doing so. You would allow no exceptions for cases of rape and incest." Polls have long shown that large majorities of Americans support at least some exceptions for abortion. Are your views too much even for many conservatives to support?
You know, the Supreme Court of the United States, on a recent case, said that a man who committed rape could not be killed, would not be subject to the death penalty. Yet the child conceived as a result of that rape could be. That to me sounds like a country that doesn't have its morals correct. That child did nothing wrong. That child is an innocent victim. To be victimized twice would be a horrible thing. It is an innocent human life. It is genetically human from the moment of conception, and it is a human life. And we in America should be big enough to try to surround ourselves and help women in those terrible situations who've been traumatized already, to put them through another trauma of an abortion, I think is too much to ask. And so I would just absolutely stand and say that one violence is enough.
Senator Santorum, I've got one for you. You said that you were, quote, the Tea Party before there was a Tea Party. But a top Tea Party goal, particularly in Iowa, is to revert back to the gold standard, something you oppose. How do you consider yourself in line with the Tea Party without agreeing on this major issue?
Well, first off, I didn't say that. The Washington Post said it. I simply commented what they said. I don't take the claim. The Tea Party organization is flat, and it should stay that way. It should support ideas, not candidates, and people who stand up and say they lead it. Well, I think most of the Tea Party people think their leadership is among the people, not because anybody is a member of Congress or anywhere else. What I've said is that I agree with Newt. I think there's some reforms that we can do with the Fed, and I agree we need to audit the Fed. I disagree with most of what Ron Paul said. Just because he's mostly wrong doesn't mean he's always wrong. And so I appreciate his contribution in that regard. I want to talk about, because I didn't get a chance to comment on this debt ceiling, but Congressman Paul and Congressman Boxer, both in the Congress, and they had an opportunity to lead. They're asking you to have them lead this country, and they couldn't lead the Congress to do something responsible in making sure that we didn't have the fiasco that we have in place right now. We should have balanced the budget. The balanced budget amendment should have been the focus from the beginning. To suggest that we never need to raise the debt ceiling, that is, again, showmanship, not leadership. Of course we have to raise the debt ceiling at some point. We're borrowing 42 cents of every dollar. 42 cents of every dollar. You're going to cut 42 cents of every dollar? Just to remind you, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, defense, and interest on the debt is 60%. That means cut everything else and something of those. That's showmanship, not leadership.
With Senator Santorum.
Thank you very much. I want to thank the people of Iowa. My family and I, Karen and the kids, came here 3 weeks ago. We've spent 3 great weeks here in Iowa enjoying the time, and been to 51 cities and in 15 days. Been to 68 counties, not as many as Chuck Grassley, but almost. And we keep working very, very hard because, as you've seen here tonight, national media may not pay a lot of attention to us, but we pay a lot of attention to the people of Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina. And we're going to be out in your communities. We're going to be working very hard to earn your trust so you can kick the tires and you can see what kind of president you want. Someone who has leadership, proven leadership, and can get things done in Washington, D.C., and been a consistent conservative. And guys who can beat incumbent Democrats, 3 of them. 3 incumbent Democrats. That's better than anybody else on this panel.
Mr.